We're talking like 2008 level,
Literally, that's what I thought.
and not 2008 level in Canada, 2008 level in like Phoenix, Arizona. If RBC is appraising at the prices that these things were purchased at, a financial institution, a major, one of the big five,
Biggest right now because they bought HSBC as well.
taking on bad debt.
Yeah.
It's apocalyptic. I don't think anybody's really aware that this is really happening because this is not on MLS. Like, it's not on realtor.ca. People are not aware of what's happening.
So I actually get goosebumps right now just thinking about what's going on in the assignment market, because you're right, no one's talking about it. We've had some media coverage on it. The money that has been evaporated in the last 2 years in the assignment market, I don't know how these people are ever gonna bounce back. From September of 2021 to December, there was, I think, close to 35 or 37 pre-con launches, which I was shocked. Every week you would see a condo getting launched. Prices came out and I'm looking at it, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Units that weren't even meant for an end user to actually live in. It was just built for investors to buy. Investors didn't care if it's small, there's no closet space, there's nothing, there's no view. They wanted to just buy and rent out.
Builders were building a product with no end user. We have personal liability attached to these mortgage contracts. And so in the States, when someone was underwater, they could just go to the bank, drop the keys off, and walk away. And they were doing that. And a lot of people were left without their homes. And it was horrible. But in Canada, you can't do that and walk away. You can go to the bank, you can drop off your keys, but you can't just turn and walk out without them coming after you and trying to take every single bit of blood from you that they can.
Real estate is a long-term game, and a lot of people are day trading it as a commodity to make a quick buck and get out. And assignment market was one of those items. People bought pre-con units with zero intention of closing and the pure intention of assigning before even taking occupancy. And the reason we see the shit show that's happening in the assignment market today is because the people that are assigning, they were not even in a situation to be remotely able to close on a unit.
Welcome to Supply and Demand with Adam Nadler. This is a podcast dedicated to the real estate market in Canada, available now on YouTube, Apple Music, and Spotify.
So Nima Kaden,
Are we rolling?
yeah, we're rolling.
Oh, we're rolling before. Holy shit.
Yeah, we were rolling this whole time. So all of your dirty little secrets and dirty laundry, they're gonna, do this. I've got leverage, bro. So you are, in my opinion, kind of like the authority on the assignment market. In my opinion, because this is something that I've wanted to talk to a real, true professional about, because it is by far the most hurting part of the market. Like, it's where the most amount of pain is being felt right now. And there's zero visibility into it. It is not a transparent marketplace. It's not on MLS. And so people don't really know the scope. People just hear things, but they don't actually know what's going on. And that's why I wanted to have you on, so you can really kind of like give us the scoop of what is actually going on in that particular market.
So assignment market has been one of those things that no one really knew much about it up to, I would say, around 2016, 17. It existed before. Not a lot of people talked about it. People that bought pre-con, they bought because it was just lucrative. You would hold it, you would close on it.
It's like a futures contract.
Yeah. And the prices made sense because they weren't charging you these crazy upmarks on the unit you're buying. So previously, let's say I purchased my first pre-con back in 2000, I think it was 4 or 5. And the pricing was very similar to the resale at that point. So you would buy a pre-con, you wouldn't see it, so that would be the risk, but you still pay very relative to the brand new product. And then you would pay it in small installments. It would be ready 3 years down the road. And I remember the very first property that I bought, it literally, the agent came to me, it's like, okay, no, I have someone that would buy it from you. You paid, let's say I paid, I think about $45,000-$50,000 or something in a deposit. Someone's going to pay you, you're going to net $60,000 now. And do you want to sell it? I was like, no, I kept it probably 3 years after it was done, and I sold it, and the unit was doubled up. Again, up to, I would say, around 2017, 18, this was the trend with any pre-con you would buy, because you would put down like small deposits, and it would make it affordable. You would have your down payment, and then you would sell it.
But you're saying you would sell the resale. You
We
would,
would say to resell.
right.
People started to take advantage of that assignment clause, and builders started to push that assignment clause during 2015, 16, 17, because they started to really increase their prices. So you would be paying 30, 40% sometimes above market value to buy something that's pre-con. And why? Cost of construction mostly. And second, the demand was there. People couldn't afford to go buy something that was, let's say, 700,000, 800,000 right away, but they could pay 5% at a time to get that down payment required over 3 years. So as an example, back in 2011, 12, I bought another pre-con. I was selling it to a client, and they had a promo. You pay 5% right now, 5% on occupancy. And well, it was a no-brainer. The project was going to be ready in 3 years after that point. So you're paying 5% on them. I can't even remember how much the unit was, like $350,000. You pay another 5% in about 3 years. You own a unit. Like, it was just, would make it affordable. So people would have an easier time purchasing a pre-con than buying a resale. So all these people who couldn't afford to buy a condo at any given point, they would go buy a pre-con because of the deposit structure. And again, the price, it made sense, so they bought it. People, builders started to really push for the fact that, hey, listen, you're locking down a unit with 10, 15%. So let's say you buy a unit for $1 million, you're paying only 10% of it, but you've locked down $1 million unit. So you paid, let's say, 100,000, 250,000. You got a unit for $1 million. If this unit in the next 3 or 4 years goes up 5% at a time, so 4 years down the road, it's gone up by 200,000. You put only 150,000. So after all the expenses of, let's say, even assigning it, you're going to be probably left with another 150,000. So in 4 years, you've doubled your money. That's 25% a year return. So that was the narrative they were pushing in terms of pre-construction. So a lot of projects would sell out. You as a buyer want to go and buy something in a pre-con project that's sold out. You had no way of getting into it except buying it in the assignment market. And because of the sheer demand that was in the condo market, people were paying premiums. So most purchasers of pre-con, when they were selling their assignments, they were making money. It got to the point that, we had the government intervene and say, okay, you know what? Just to make it clear, if you're selling assignments, it's fully taxable. So don't come and say, this is a personal residence, or I was going to rent it out, and it's not going to be a capital gain. This is a full-fledged income, and you're going to be paying full income on it. Then they also added the clarification on the HST, meaning if you have a list of $100,000, you're charging 13% on that $100,000. So 100,000 plus 13%, which no one was doing. So government went after whoever sold and said, hey, where's the 13% on the profit? So this was to kind of control the market in terms of people speculating. Fast forward to 2021, market went crazy. Resale market was through the roof. Condos were doing pretty well. And what really took off was the pre-construction. 2021, I think I recall in September, from September of 2021 to December, there was, I think, close to 35 or 37 pre-con launches, which I was shocked. Every week you would see a condo getting launched at ridiculous prices. And some of these projects didn't even make sense. We were actually anticipating to work on a bunch of projects. We started advertising. I have few clients, like a good example is 11 York. I have a bunch of clients waiting to purchase. Prices came out, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, it just doesn't make sense. Like, go across the street buying Four Seasons right now. Why would you be paying right now at 11 Yorkville and, get something that's going to be ready in a few years? So, those projects I didn't work on. And thankfully so, because right now we're seeing a lot of these projects coming into occupancy. People can't even not only get mortgages, they don't even have their last 5% to pay to get the occupancy because the market has dropped so drastically. There's so many examples I can give you right now. In Yorkville right now, units, one bedroom class dens were purchased for around $1.3 million, $1.35 million value today. You'd be lucky if you got 900. I didn't think you could get 900. And they've put down 10 to 15%. So even if they walk away from their deposit, they still have to put more to cover the difference. And I'm getting calls for the last 90 days on a few of these projects in Yorkville, downtown Toronto. Center Court is a good example. Like they had a few projects, great project, great locations, but people that bought, they all bought based on a speculation and they didn't want to close on it and they wanted to sign. So
they wanted to sell the contract, buy the condo before they could close, before they needed to close on it. They have the deposit tied up with these places. And now we're coming to the term of occupancy, which will be followed closely by closing.
Yeah.
And what do these people do?
So a lot of these people, they saw the market coming down. So in my opinion, the ones that were more alert or smart, they started to get rid of their units 2022, 2023 if they could. Some people waited till last minute. They're like, hey, listen, I've already paid my 10%, 15%, 20%. Let's wait. Market is going to rebound. Well, time comes, market hasn't rebounded. Not only that, now you got competition because there's probably 50 other people that bought that same floor plan that don't want to close and they put it on a assignment market. And we're seeing it right now. We're seeing the same floor plan come on the market. They start, let's say, I got an example right now at in Vaughan, Festival Tower, CG Tower. Someone puts a unit up for sale at the beginning, but I hadn't seen any similar units. Let's say one bedroom was going around 560, 570. Same one bedroom right now sold for $420,000. It's holy shit. And the reason for that is suddenly there's 10 of the same unit on assignment. And as a buyer, it's supply and demand. So many supply of the literally same floor plan on the market. No one's buying. So whoever is willing to not only walk away from their deposit today, who's going to even pay more to get rid of it?
So if someone walks away from the deposit and they try to assign it, but a buyer's only willing to pay so much and it doesn't even cover any of the deposit, who's taking the bath on that? The builder?
Seller.
The seller.
The seller has to pay the difference.
Seller has to pay to get that rose.
Yeah. And that's a misconception that people have. I get calls like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna walk away from my deposit. I'm like, okay, so the unit doesn't even worth that price that you paid, even if you walk away from the deposit. As an example, the unit that was close to $1.4 million, they had only paid, if I'm not mistaken, 10%. So you paid $130,000. So what? You gotta pay another probably $400,000 to get it to the price point that people would be like, okay, now what? I'm gonna purchase this. So the seller has to pay the difference. So walking you through the timeline, 2022, when the market became slow.
Well, wouldn't it make more sense at that point to just lose the deposit and just not close?
Technically, yes, but then you get sued. And then if you got assets, the builder is going to come after you. I mean, builder can come after you regardless of you having asset or not. But if you got a home under your name, you got few properties, then you run the risk of a lawsuit. And you don't want to deal with that, right? So walking through the timeline, 2022, when people started to, when the market got slow, we actually shifted our focus from pre-con to assignment. And I recall exactly May of 2022, market was like super slow. So we started calling our clients, hey, listen, if you're looking for investment, assignment market is where it's at. And I recall we did so many assignment deals from May till September, and everything made so much sense, and there were good deals. But a lot of people that bought, we had the sellers not really like getting their deposit wiped out. They were still getting their deposit. A lot of them were selling at the price they sold, so they were walking away from 5% of their deposit because of the commission or whatnot. but people were still getting back their deposit. We go to 2023, I was yet to see someone pay on top of their deposit. Come 2024, I started to see a few of them. So 2024, around February, March, I saw my very first one that I did myself. We bought a unit, and the guy not only walked away from $250,000, paid another $67,000 on top to walk away. And I was like, well, how does that even gonna work? I had never had a math on the Schedule B. I don't know if you've seen the contract.
Oh, her son is so confusing. The Schedule Bs.
Yeah, so this Schedule B, you have to do the math. And then my first time I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, so it says, you have to pay this much, but you have to pay this much is negative. So we added a clause. I remember, like, I talked to a lawyer, I talked to my broker. So we made an edit. Hey, this amount, the assignor has to pay to the assignee now on top upon builder approval. So within one business day of builder approval, there's going to be X amount that the seller is going to pay, plus return back the original deposit that was put down with the contract. So you as a buyer put down a deposit, let's say 5%, you get your 5% back, you get another 5% on top of it, let's just say, to take over the unit. So that's when I saw the first one. And then I'm like, that's cool. Then I started calling a few other clients. I'm like, listen, I can get you him and paid to take over a bunch of these assignments. So we started to do it. And now we've hit a point that the gap is not anymore 10, 20, 30,000. We're hitting like sometimes 400. It's like the most I've seen is $500,000 on top. You walk away from your deposit and you got to pay another $500,000 for someone to take your unit. And we're not talking about like $2-3 million units. We're talking about like units that are around 1.5, 1.6 maximum. Yeah. So not only they have to pay the 20% that they've put down or 15% that they've put down, they got to put another $400,000 to $500,000 on top to walk away. And who's got the money for that? So a lot of people like that are actually walking away from the units. They run the risk of getting sued. I mean, there are builders right now that they got so many lawsuits out there. There was an article out there. Center Court has got so many people right now in the court system, just suing for the differences that these guys are walking away from. So the other issue you run into is, I've seen it with a few of these purchases. They bought multiple units in the same condo. So you can be walking away because you walk away from the first one, builders got the hold on the second one now. So they try to close the first one, maybe they can close the second one, but it's a mess altogether at that point.
Okay, so I have some questions because this is like what you're describing right now is for Toronto real estate. I mean, doomsday. Like it's apocalyptic is what you're describing right now. And I don't think anybody's really aware that this is really happening because this is not on MLS. Like it's not on realtor.ca. People are not aware of what's happening here. So it's walk viewers through, if you're listening right now, like, just take them through why it's not on MLS, how the builders control supply, and how do you shop something like this? And how do these things happen? And how is it all happening like kind of like under a veiled curtain?
So I actually get goosebumps right now just thinking about what's going on in that assignment market, because you're right, no one's talking about it. We've had some media coverage on it, but what is at the depth of the wealth and money that has been evaporated in the last 2 years in the assignment market? I don't know how these people are ever going to bounce back to purchase again in the GTA market.
Yeah.
Because people are refinancing their homes, selling their principal homes to cover these things. That doesn't even make any sense anymore to even save. So what's happening right now? Your question was?
Walk people through why they're not seeing it, why this is something that is so veiled.
So builders don't allow you to put these units on MLS for two main reasons. One, historically, they used to have unsold inventory that they would hold in the hope that the market would pick up and they sell it at a more expensive price point. So if they want to do that, which most builders would do when the units would go into occupancy or the building would be very close to the closing, they were charging crazy prices for it still. But if you as a seller have to sell and then start putting it on the MLS or below what this builder is selling, so builder can't sell their unit. So this is why they wouldn't let sellers put on MLS. One. Two, for appraisal purposes. Someone is stuck and can't sell. They put it on MLS. They let it go for a crazy cheap price. Now that is history there. And an appraiser would see that and wouldn't appraise everyone else's in the unit. Everyone else's unit in that building for the price they paid.
I never thought about the appraisal angle of it. So basically, these appraisals are either done by some appraisers by hand, by just going on MLS and reviewing the data. But we also have like algorithmic appraisals that happen with the banks where they just kind of like parse through data, which is through like a BOW on MLS.
Yeah.
And that happens that way too. So I never thought about it, is that the builders actually can't put it on MLS because they're going to actually devalue their own product. And then when it comes time to close, they've now screwed over their own customers for being able to close.
Yeah, exactly. So historically, appraisers,
And it screws themselves over because if their customers can't close, then they don't get the money. Sorry, Katiki.
well, and it would keep the builder a bad rep. Hey, listen, you sold something that people are selling it below what you sold it. So they don't want that happening, especially when they still haven't closed the building, right? Because they still own units there. So going back to the appraisal issue, yeah, a lot of times they just run the data. They don't physically check these things, but previously they would literally check the building, check the comparable buildings around it to get the mortgage to whoever is getting the mortgage. So these are two main reasons they don't let you put it on MLS. So if you can put it on MLS, where can you put it? Well, they won't even let you put it on social media. I've seen it that they've taken a screenshot of an advertising on social media and they had the unit number and everything, sent it to the owner, and owner better call you like, you need to take this off immediately or we're putting you in default. So 24 hours to take all these ads out. Owner did it. Owner got hit with a fine when they actually signed the unit because they had it on MLS. I can't remember how much they charged them, but these things happen. So they police a lot of the social media. Like a lot of people would post on Kijiji, Facebook Marketplace. They would do that. I've even heard of builders actually inquiring. Let's say they don't have an assignment, someone calls me, inquires about it, and I send them all the information, send them even the APS. Now they got the owner's name on it. Pick up the phone, hey, listen, you're assigning it and it's publicly being assigned or advertised. So, we're putting you in default. Right now in this market, I haven't heard of it recently because builders' interest is that someone else takes door so they can get their money. Previously, they knew if they put you in default, they can sell it and make more money. But right now, I haven't seen that happen. But the main reason they won't let you publicly advertise is the reasons I mentioned. And because of that, there is not enough stats on assignment market. So for example, I'm selling an assignment right now. I need to advertise it and let my client know. I have to manually dig up and see through my network of agents who else was selling the unit, let's say at 11 Eurofil, Nobu, or other projects to see what actually got assigned at what price point. So there's a lot of legwork. So any agent that's selling an assignment, it's a totally different ballgame than selling in a resale, because resale we posted on it unless you got all the information available. Very straightforward. With assignment, anytime we want to take on a listing, that's all process. I know what other agents do it differently. I search a lot of these databases that we have. Like, I got one of the biggest WhatsApp groups. We got a bunch of other groups with different brokerages, and there's a lot of pre-con agents that are doing assignments. So we talk to them to see, okay, this unit that once you get assigned, who has a similar one? What are they pricing it? How's the activity on it? And if it's been assigned, what price has it been assigned at? So
just to be clear, when you're selling a contract, which is, what an assignment is, the buyer must know they have to know because they're buying a contract. So they know what you bought it for. They know what the deposit is. They know how much you got into it. And that is inescapable. And so they know how much they're going to hurt these sellers.
Yeah.
But when you're advertising this, right, I'm seeing as well, because I'm part of a few like Facebook exclusive groups and stuff like that. I see them being posted with floor plan, how much it's bought for, the price drops, like the slashing up through the price and the here's a new price, deposit gone kind of thing. Like I see it right on there in a bold red letters. It's like kind of scary. And then do you find that builders are like trying to infiltrate those groups to find out now?
Recently, I haven't heard of anyone coming and saying, hey, listen, builder contacted me or whatnot. The only instances I've heard people come to me and say, hey, listen, I had my previous agent posted on MLS and builder called me was when they posted it on MLS. No one is contacting me and say, hey, listen, I had the builder, give me a warning or put me in default because they saw my advertising somewhere in one of these groups. Recently, I haven't heard it. The last I heard it was back in 2021. That was the very last time I heard it. I'm sure it happens, but that's why you got to be very careful when you're advertising these things. One of the big things we do, we never put a unit number. So when there's no unit number, we're declining the owner. And anytime I get random calls, hey, listen, I want the APS. Like on this, I know of first of all, we don't send APSs to random buyers. Phone calls off the street say, hey, listen, what, that unit, what floor is it on? It's our policy. We don't meet floor plans. I got to meet them in person, see who they are. And if they don't want to meet, I'd tell my sellers, are you cool with me sending this out? Because tomorrow, builder gives you a call. I don't want to be liable. 2, they usually say, do whatever you need to do or whatever you think is the right thing. So we don't send that out unless they meet us. At very least, it's going to be a Zoom call. If I know who I'm dealing with, I get their ID. And we usually just Google it, see if they're connected to any builder. If it's an agent, it's a different game. I haven't seen any agents grab an APS and send it to the builder like these guys are selling it, but has never.
Really? Shit. Yeah. So you're like, just to understand this, these people who are underwater have essentially lost their deposit, can't close, are being essentially under threat of being sued and have liens put on their homes and lose everything. Those people are now trying to get out and are worried about the builders that sold them the product to begin with, trying to hunt them down because they're trying to get rid of this, and also worried about buyers who may not actually be buyers, who are just hunting for them to try to screw them over, or real buyers who are just going to completely take them and slaughter them for every penny they can.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, so
That's what it is.
So that's, again, like, this is, I love talking to you about this because you have such insight. Like, this is apocalyptic.
Yeah.
No doubt. What kind of price drops as a percentage base overall are you seeing on this just in the last 2 years?
So average, whatever anyone has purchased, well, here's the thing. I'll give you an example. Just going back to the whole pre-con, when you're buying a pre-con, there's different stages. So if you're buying at the very first stage, you probably bought at the best price possible. If you bought it when it was open to public and just walked in and bought it from the builder, you probably paid the most expensive price for the same unit. Give you an example. A client of mine bought a unit for $590, let's call it. Similar unit, lower square footage. One bedroom plus them, about 20 square foot less, much lower floor, was sold for $640,000. So $50,000 price gap. Inferior unit compared to what it was purchased. So it's tough to say how much price drop we see, but right now, as it stands, I haven't seen any unit that was purchased since 2020 to have less than 20%
Of a drop?
less than 20%. Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I've seen as much as
So far.
I've seen us as much as 40-45%. Which I may overpaid. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, and this is only, it seems like we're only kind of just getting started.
So the craziness started last year with 30,000 occupancies. So we had just over 30,000 last year. Units that went into occupancy this year is just over 31,000. I'm guessing we're almost, based on the numbers I think I saw once, we're close to, like, so far about 15,000 homes. There's half of them still left to be occupied this year. Next year is about just over 20,000 units. So things aren't still getting better next year, even though, like, the number of occupancies are coming down. But the sheer number of occupancies that we've had in the last 2 years and the unsold inventory that's coming back on the market and it's not going to sell is going to carry over to next year. And next year you're going to have another 20,000, which is probably going to be front end loaded. And I think for condo, well, let's call it the assignment market, to kind of stabilize somewhat, we're looking at 2027. But for 2027, units to somewhat fetch the price that they paid for, I don't see that happening. They probably can expect to just lose the deposit on walkway, because right now I haven't seen any unit that was purchased in 2021, 2022 that's coming into occupancy right now to be able to get their deposit back.
Holy shit. Okay, well, this is really, really concerning, super scary. Now, I guess the broader question is, like,
How are you seeing this ripple out through the rest of the market, through the rental market in particular, which is a big concern because a lot of these units that can close or can get to the point where they get to occupancy, or try to rent them out to offset, right? To offset the expenses, cash flow, all kinds of stuff. How are you seeing it affect the rental market? And then how are you seeing it affect the resale market, which that is the sacred cow of Canada, is real estate. And if it's rippling into the resale market, like, that's real bad. That's doom and gloom.
So majority of the units that were purchased are 1 bedroom, 1 bedroom plus. That's all the product builders were releasing pretty much in majority of their condos. And these are, like, units that weren't even meant for an end user to actually live in. It was just literally purely built for investors to buy. Investors didn't care if it's small. There's no closet space. There's nothing. There's no view, because they wanted to just buy and rent out.
So what Tom Story said a couple of weeks ago on this podcast was that builders were building a product with no end user.
Yeah, exactly. Recently I had a lady that contacted me back in January. I remember I was going to a ski trip, so literally I took the call just before getting on a plane. Then I landed. She called again and frazzled. Unit was purchased around $540,000, 320 or 330 square feet. Like, my jaw dropped. And location, college, and where was it? Called the church.
Oh, that's not it. No.
And Jarvis, Curry. Oh, that Jarvis. Yeah, still the same thing.
Yeah, well, it's not good.
I'm like, there's no way you can sign this thing. Like, how are you been getting appraised? Like, oh, there's a blanket appraisal from RBC. I'm like, well, of course, because RBC is kind of bailing out the majority of these projects right now.
What do you mean by that?
So blanket appraisal, I'm shocked you haven't heard of it. So these guys, no one can get appraised for these units right now. So builder knows it, and builders are worried about it. The only bank right now saving builders is RBC, giving blanket appraisals. So saying, whatever you pay for it, we appraise it, as long as you can qualify for it.
Whoa. Hold on.
That's where the problem deepens, because now we got a financial institution involved in these assignments, appraising units that are...
Hold on. No. Now you're freaking me out, because that's kind of like, we're talking like 2008 level.
Literally, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
When I first heard it, I'm like...
And not 2008 level in Canada, 2008 level in, like, Phoenix, Arizona. Like, bad. That's because if RBC is appraising at the prices that these things were purchased at, that's akin to a financial institution, a major, one of the big five.
Biggest right now, because they bought HSBC as well. Right now, RBC is the biggest bank.
Taking on bad debt.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the scary part. But I heard it. I'm like, okay, maybe it's one project because they finance it. Second project because they finance it. I've heard they're doing blanket appraisals again. I haven't verified this, but I've heard of some projects that they haven't even financed. Apparently, they're giving me lack of appraisal, which is shocking.
And dude, if RBC goes belly up,
Well, I mean, here's the problem. Like, if people that bought it go belly up in mass scale, who's gonna be selling those units to make RBCable? Because here's the math I run for everyone that calls me to do an assignment. I'll be like, okay, they're like, okay, you know what? We're just gonna close on it and resell it in a few years. I'm like, define few years. I don't know, maybe next year, 2 years. I'm like, let's get on a Zoom so I can break it over the phone. I'll try explaining it to people. I think they're just so shocked and understand it. When I run the math for them, and most of these numbers are landing anywhere from 8 to as far as 15 years to make the same price that they pay for whole. Not to mention maintenance is property taxes and anything else.
No, and the holding costs are enormous. Yeah, they're huge.
And you're gonna be negative. And I always tell them, you're gonna be negative at least for the next 2-3 years from what I see in the rental market, because the rental prices have dropped, which we're gonna talk about because that was one of your questions. So what's going on right now? Why are we appraising units that are gonna be probably another decade at the same value as what people paid, right? Again, I guess, it's a way to save the market right now currently.
but it's not. It's just kicking the can down the road and towards a cliff. By the way,
Yeah, but like, let's just assume RBC goes bankrupt. Are you gonna let RBC go bankrupt?
no,
We have that. How can, what was that? Last year, bunch of financial institutions,
SBV. Yeah, sorry, Silicon Valley Bank.
TD was also like, getting into trouble because they were investing in a bunch of other banks and they went belly up, but they wrapped it up within a month. Like, when I saw the news come out, like all the markets stumbled. I'm like, this is it. That's the end of real estate market, anything. Because once you get run on the banks, like, that's the worst thing we know, like, in the economy, that's the worst thing that can happen. But they fixed it up right away. They bailed out the effects.
But you can only print so much money to bail people out until you start.
Well, look at the inflation right now.
Yeah, no, that's what you're describing is like it's freaking me out, man.
So let's now go into the rental market. I'll give you an example of the lady that talked to me about their condo, Jack Condos. So I said, listen, there's nothing I can do with the assignment. She went and closed on it, which, in my opinion, again, I'm not here as a lawyer, but it's going to be a while for her to make money. Why? Because shit ton of units came on the market, and a studio of her size, which is insane to say, that was renting for around $1,800-$1,900 still, plummeted to $1,500 to $1,550 per month. Her mortgage is $2,300. Not to mention maintenance fee and insurance. So suddenly there was like 30 studios on the market, 41 bedrooms on the market. We're seeing this all around right now. Take a look at VMC. We got Festival, 4 towers. We got CG Tower, all in occupancy right now, and they're closing. There is probably, I've seen like over 200 units of 1 bedroom plus then come up for lease. You go to the north, Abbey Health, 3 towers. So combined right there within, all in the same vicinity, we got, I'm guessing, around 1,000 units for lease within a short period of time, 6 months. So a 1 bedroom was leasing there, 1 bedroom plus 10 was leasing there. Let's say in the Expo Towers. And if you're familiar with that, near, again, Highway 7, 400 Jane, you could lease out a 1 bedroom plus 10 for $2,500.
You're talking about like the Transit City
stuff, or Expo, like a little bit further to near the Jane. Yeah, so they were renting $2,500. All of a sudden, right now, you got brand new units renting for $2,000 to $2,100.
Oh my God.
So that's like 15% drop. And we're talking about January till now. We're not talking about year over year. We're talking about January till now. So in most areas right now, from January till the end of May, we've had, I would say, majority of GTA, the rental prices have dropped by about 5%. That's what I'm seeing right now. Areas that had huge number of brand new condos in it, you're looking at 10 to 15% drop. And again, it's because there's so many units coming on to occupancy. The other day I was driving down, I saw sign. Where was it? It was somewhere on Yonge and Lawrence. Rent this condo. If you rent it for 2 years, you get 2 months for free. And I had seen the similar one on Yonge and Eglinton on Roehampton. You get a month free for a 1 year lease. This never happened last year. Like people were like, there was a lineup to get units. So
what do you think's gonna happen?
So, I mean, here's the thing. Immigration numbers I was looking at, nothing has really they were supposed to not let as many people in. Oh no, they created again. Yeah, so I don't know how that's happening. So that is sustaining the rental market, thank God, and some of these units. Because otherwise, I think a lot of people would just literally, because how many people are going to be able to carry a unit at 1,000 or 1,500 negative per month for a long period of time?
Well, the difference when we're talking about, I mean, market collapses like this, right? Which is, it seems like it's very much happening. In 2008 in the States, I believe that the way that their mortgages were structured was all asset-based and there was no personal liability. But in Canada, we didn't do that. We have personal liability attached to these mortgage contracts. And so in the States, when someone was underwater, they could just go to the bank, drop the keys off, and walk away. And they were doing that. And a lot of people were left without their homes. And it was horrible. But in Canada, you can't do that and walk away. You can go to the bank, you can drop off your keys, but you can't just turn and walk out without them coming after you and trying to take every single bit of blood from you that they can.
Yeah, so that's the whole thing. And the other thing I believe that Canada has going for them is stress test, thankfully.
Okay, so thank God we had the stress test.
I was like, what's going on in 2018 with the stress test? It's insane. But now we're seeing the effect of it, that because of that, a lot of people can't afford to hold on to things that they bought back in 2021, 2022, or even late 2020. Otherwise, this would have been worse. Going back to the rental market, there's a lot of immigration coming in. But I'm pretty sure you've noticed it too. The quality of tenants applying has gone down drastically.
Yes.
So we used to literally get an application and not even put in a condition to check the tenant, because I would tell them, listen, give me like 2 days irrevocable. Within that 2 day or maybe 1 day, you will call the references, everything you check out, and everything was fine and dandy. Right now, we're getting people with work visa, which I got no one to check with. Half the credit reports, just in the last 2 months, we got 2 credit reports that were fake. Fake, yeah. We got people that said they worked somewhere, they didn't work when we do our background search. And when we call the agent's like, agent had no idea. And I could tell like they're not in on it with them. The agent disappeared right after. I'm like, okay, well, there goes the offer, right? So now, at least that would take us maybe like 2-3 hours to do reference check. Right now, we're spending like minimum, well, we have a 3 business day condition on it because I got to get my assistant on it. And we're using a bunch of other softwares that are paid softwares to check these things.
Right, an open room and things like that.
Well, we got a software that checks all these open rooms and all the court documents for us. So we don't have to do it manually, we pay for it. We got a software that checks if the PDFs have been altered. That says, hey, listen, this is altered. So we don't have to, like previously we were doing it manually through another AI software to upload it there, get a subscription there. Now there's a whole subscription for one package. They run all this thing. We would run their name with keywords like lawsuits, tenant, and then see what in Google what comes up, just to see if they've been on the news doing the same thing again. And
oh my God,
it's just insanity to deal with the
So you have now a market that's crashing when it comes to condos, a rental market which is quickly turning and could very easily crash as well. You know,
availability of tenants drop drastically.
right. And so now these landlords have not only a bunch of risk on the equity side of things, right, where they're facing higher carrying charges, increased taxes, especially real estate taxes have gone up like 30% in the last 3 years, 4 years, in Toronto in particular. Uh, Increased maintenance fees, maybe a special assessment. Who knows if it's not properly managed? A condo could be, had a reserve fund that gets audited by a third party auditor and determines that they've been mismanaged. So you get all these expenses on just the holding side of things, and then you get these tenants coming in where if they are what's called a professional tenant and they just do this and then don't pay anything, you have zero recourse as a landlord because the landlord tenant board has been for years now swayed so heavily in the favor of tenants that you've now put so much risk on investors to provide housing that they literally can't. They can't take the chance. They can't take the risk. And so what do you do? Like what happens?
Well, that's the big question right now because I don't see anyone else right now buying any unit for investment purposes. Just
No, why would they?
risk involved in owning a place. You're not making money on it. You're probably going to be at best cash flow neutral.
I had to ask bets.
At best, yeah. And I'll give you an example. Yes, we bought a lot of assignments for clients. Not right now. Last year, the year before was great. I would buy properties like, I bought a 2-bedroom corner unit, brand new with parking, 870 square feet for 600 and I think 30,000, right? We bought another one around like 780 square feet. We bought it for, I think, 620.
All under 1,000 square feet.
Yeah. And they were cash flowing and the rents were high. They rented the 870 square foot for like 4,200. The other one was rented for 3,950. So it made sense on that assignment deal for them to buy something like that. They're getting it well below market value and it would be cash flow neutral pretty much. But right now, you're buying any of these assignments still, you might be paying market value for these. We're trying to get 10% below market value, but the rents have dropped so much right now that you're not going to be cash flow neutral.
So I think what you're getting at here is investors are not just trying to get out, but because of regulations, taxes, and tenant risk, they've basically been jettisoned from the market. Like they've been forced out of the market, and they were the ones providing housing to everyone in Toronto.
Regulation is one of the biggest one right now. I mean, like we're in Ontario, tenant doesn't vacate your place, good luck getting them out, right? As I was driving here, same situation I had. Their tenant, we already talked to them since 3 months ago. They were supposed to leave. They haven't left. I told my client, I'm like, listen, get them to sign on an 11. Like they keep on delaying it. This lady needs to sell her condo. And I told her, I'm like, the condo is in such bad shape. You put it on the market, it's not going to sell. Like I'm telling you right now, if you want to make an extra X amount, you need to get them out. You need to do the fixes, you need to stage it. Because in this market, condos don't sell, let alone you got a tenant in the place, which no one knows is going to leave. And they go in, they see the condition, they're going to run away. They're going to be like, this tenant is now leaving when I buy this condo. So they're not leaving. They pay their rent here and they're late. There's so much issues with them. And the landlord is like, just get me out. Like, I don't want to deal with it. I had another lady that called me. It's like,
Sorry, but I got to pause today. Just have to go to the bathroom real quick. But we'll be back in a sec. All right, sorry. So you were just in the middle of actually literally scaring a piss out of me. So come on, you're talking about rent.
so we're talking about rentals. Yeah. So, I mean, like with what's going on with the regulations and everything else, people will not only won't invest, they will literally sell their existing investment properties and get rid of it and not have to deal with it. So, I have one lady that wants to sell, can't sell because of the tenants inside. I have another lady that the tenant is just, they're just dealing with dramas every day. And she just fed up. And she used to be a pretty big landlord. And over the last 3-4 years, I've sold a few of her properties just strictly because she doesn't want to deal with the tenants anymore. And this is the very last one. And she's just, listen, I just can't wait for her to move out so I can deal with it and just sell it. And that's it. Wash my hands off being a landlord.
Okay, so this is where I've started to really warn people, because in my mind, it seems like, anyways, that Canadians for time immemorial have always looked at real estate as like their primary investment. And it was, like I said, the sacred cow, right? We built our economy on it. It's the backbone of everything that we do here because, let's face it, we're not that productive as an economy compared to our neighbors. And now we have a situation where Canadians are starting to realize that risk and volatility are not the same thing. They used to view real estate as low risk but high volatility, and they wanted the volatility because prices were going up by God knows, compounding 8% a year. You know what I mean? You double your money in less than a decade, and people were very happy. And then what they would do is refinance the property, go buy more property, right? Yeah. And now all of that is unwinding and unraveling, and people are losing their shirts. So I guess where my thought process goes to all of this is for Canadians to really understand that real estate is not low risk. Yeah. It is high risk and it is high volatility. It's basically like getting into, I don't know, a meme coin. Like you buy Dogecoin or whatever. It's not that different, but it's worse because you're leveraged. So now, and you're on the hook for it. This isn't money that you can afford to lose.
So exactly like you said, if they are not making wise investment choices, it could really be risky and volatile. So this is the reason why if you're buying as an investment property, like buying an investment property, you need to make sure you're getting the right advice, buy it at the right price, buy it at the right location, and run the math. A lot of investors that are buying properties, they're just literally not getting, in my opinion, right advice. Like if you're buying strictly to rent out, then maybe pre-con is not your best option.
Or maybe putting your investment more into your primary residence.
Get rid of your mortgage, maybe, right? Second thing, if you are buying something as an investment property, then make sure you're open to the risk that comes with the tenants that we're dealing in this time period right now. Because a lot of tenants that are coming into downtown Toronto are not as qualified, in my opinion, as pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, I used to I rented out a studio. The guy that came in and rented it was making $180,000. I was shocked that he's renting a studio. He was working downtown. He was graduated from U of T, proper job, everything checked out. Whereas right now, I was renting out a 3-bedroom. Every application was 3 to 4 people grouping together to rent a place.
That's not sustainable.
Yeah. So unless you want to be a slumlord like that, then you shouldn't be, in my opinion, investing in it, because a lot of the investors in the condo market, they're hands-up investors, right? They don't want to deal with it, right? The agent puts someone in your unit, and then God forbid that tenant complains, they pick up the phone to the agent, hey, listen, you know what? I don't know, like they're complaining about this, there's pest, or for example, the fridge is not working. Who do you have for me to send? Right? Like this is the type of clients we're dealing with these days, that anything happens, they're like, okay, do you have like an electrician? Do you have this? Do you have that? Technically, we're property managing it, right? So if you don't want to be involved on day-to-day situation of that, then you shouldn't be.
That people thought that this was a passive investment. Being a landlord is an active investment. It is not passive at all. It is a job.
It's a full-time job. And listen, if you're not taking care of the unit, then the tenant is going to withhold your rent. So, you got a fridge that's broken. If you're not fixing it in time, they lost their grocery. I've seen that happen. Next month, you're getting $300 less on your rent. It's not legal to do, but good luck collecting that right now. You got to go to landlord-tenant board. So,
and talk to us about the landlord-tenant board, because that is above the whole another shit show.
Yeah, and that's the reason why, in my opinion, a lot of investors are not investing anymore in real estate because if they don't get their rent, to evict the tenant right now, you're looking at 7-8 months minimum. If you can, keep them out. And, you got professional tenants. I had a call from a husband that the wife was an agent. And they overpriced the property. It was a custom house. They overpriced it, put it out for, I don't know, close to $8,000 a month. Market value of that rent, probably $6,400-$6,500 tops. They got one person looking at it. That person said, I'm going to give you an offer, given the full price. The guy goes in first and last, hasn't paid right now. It's been 9 months. So they called me. They're like, okay, you know what? Someone said to talk to you. We have this issue. I'm like, where's your agent? It's like, oh, my wife is the agent. I'm like, do you guys do a reference check? He's like, yeah, we got all the documents, everything checked out. I'm like, well, we just look at the credit report and that's it. It's like, yeah. While I was on my phone, I literally just, they sent me the documents, just Googled the name. The guy had 4 other landlord-tenant board files going in unpaying. And I'm like, literally, just a Google search would turn up. You shouldn't be renting, right? So
these are mom and pop investors that shouldn't be investing in real estate to be a landlord. I mean, look, there are a lot of horror stories. There are also a lot of stories that we don't hear because everything's just working out just fine, right? I'm a landlord myself. I've had great tenants.
Yeah.
Never had an issue. Now, so it's not to like demonize tenants here, but at the same time, you have a situation where now Canadians are stuck where we can't invest in real estate. It's not a viable option anymore. And I think that we're probably returning to a more organic marketplace for actual primary residences and buyers that are looking to live in the home rather than these investors coming in and gobbling up and you have Toronto condos downtown made up of 60 to 70% are owned by investors. That's a highly leveraged market. It's a highly volatile market, and it's filled with risk. So I think at least that's where I'm seeing things going is if buyers are looking to purchase for themselves and they want the stability, and by the way, don't even expect huge upward pressure on price.
Yeah.
But just if you want the stability of knowing that it's your home, that you can't get kicked out of it, you can afford the mortgage, you're okay with it, you've got a fixed rate that you're comfortable with, and you underwritten the deal properly and conservatively, and you have kids going to a certain school and you want to be close to it, and you want that stability knowing that you can't be kicked out and you're not going anywhere for a while, I understand wanting to own real estate. Yeah. But if it's not that situation and you're just looking to park money into Toronto real estate, like, you got another thing coming. I am not convinced anymore.
So, and the reason people thought like that was because for the longest time, you purchased any type of real estate in GTA, you would get crazy returns, right? Like now up to 2017, 2017 was the craziest year we had in real estate. Half of it, literally the front half, you would get 10-15% month-over-month growth in real estate, which was not sustainable. But even going back since 2008, the percentage appreciation on any type of product you bought was decent enough to offset paying the property taxes, paying the land transfer tax, paying the interest on your mortgage. But let's go back and look at what has happened since 2018 till now. I mean, unless someone bought something in 2018 and got out of the market in 2021 and didn't buy anything else, everyone's underwater. Because even whoever sold in 2021 bought in 2021. And even though they sold for a crazy price and they brag about it, but whatever they bought right now, they're underwater. So I'm trying to get to is real estate is a long-term game. And a lot of people are day trading it as a commodity to make a quick buck and get out. And assignment market was one of those items. People bought pre-con units with zero intention of closing and the pure intention of assigning before even taking occupancy.
So the highest level of speculation was in the assignment market.
Yeah. And the reason we see the shit show that's happening in the assignment market today is because the people that are assigning had zero intention of closing. They were not even in a situation to be remotely able to close on a unit. Again, I got a call from someone that didn't even have their PR, bought a crazy unit, which I'm shocked how they even afford to pay for the deposit for that. And my question was, how are you going to close on it? Oh, I wasn't going to close on it. I'm like, how are you going to sell it? You didn't have your PO. Oh, like my PO was supposed to come. It's been delayed. Like, who's giving advice here, right? So you get this little bit of speculation, and people getting, in my opinion, I mean, like someone comes to me with no PR or residency, I'd be like, okay, unless you got work visa and there's certain work visas that you can buy with, then we're not talking here. I mean, can you afford the 25%? Even if you're allowed to purchase, which most people will not be able to.
Right, because now we have a 25% non-resident speculation tax.
So then why are we, and these are the type of people that are assigning, and these are the type of people right now that are in pure trouble.
Okay, so we've gone over the assignment market, which is crazy. I mean, that was for sure the most. We're gonna feed the algorithm handsomely on this video because that was some serious doom porn. We've gone over the rental market, which is not as scary as the assignment market, but certainly getting there. Now let's go over the effects on the resale market. What are you seeing in terms of the ripple effect there? Because that's where I do my business. That's where I'm starting to get a little bit concerned.
So a lot of the units that are on the assignment market that won't sell on assignment, a lot of people are actually closing on it just so that they don't get sued. And they just barely, yeah. And they come back on the market to sell. Again, I don't know how some people are affording that, because even at the prices that they buy to sell it, they got to put down not only 20%, they probably have to put down 40% to be able to sell and pay off the mortgage at the end of it, right? A unit that was purchased for $800,000 right now worth for $550, you're putting down 20% of it, you're still short, right? But anyways, some of them are ending up on the resale market. Second, a lot of the resale people that are looking for condos, I met right now purchasers that are looking at resale, and I tell them, like, you're gonna have a field day in that assignment market. It takes a lot of education. A lot of them you can't even go see because you still got to buy off the plan, but the deal that you're going to get is going to be 10 to 15% below what you're going to buy across the street at a 5-6-year-old building.
For now.
And because of that, well, then the resale condo sits on the market. As of today, we got about 7 months of inventory in the condo market.
For now.
There's another 5 to 6 months, in my opinion, maybe even more, on the assignment market. No one talks about.
So that's going to come flooding on.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of them don't close, let's just say, and they don't come back under.
Well, then they come on into the builder.
And a lot of them close, and they know they can afford to sell it right now. So they lease it out, and then they delay the problem. So next year is going to come up. 2 years from now, it's going to come up. So for the sheer number of units right now that's coming into occupancy and what's existing on the market to get absorbed, and just don't see it happening within the next year.
Right. So like
we're looking at probably 2028 for the condo market to have some sort of a life to come back.
So if we had the full scope of what's on the assignment market right now come to market in a transparent way, the way that the resale market is, how many months of inventory do you think we had total?
I don't have the stats because there's nowhere any of these is recorded. From what I see, I think there's going to be at least 5 or 6 months of inventory in the assignment market.
Right. So we're up into 10, 12.
Easy. 14. Oh, that's all well above 10 or 11 months of inventory combining all the assignment and condo market.
And just to give everybody some perspective on what that means and what those numbers mean. So months of inventory is a consumption rate. And in the height of the 2008 market crash in the US, a lot of those markets had around that level of months of inventory, if not higher.
Yeah.
And I know in some markets, like I was just speaking with Bill Harnaby in Caledon yesterday, and he was telling me in his market he has 18 months of inventory for some product. That kind of consumption rate puts incredible downward pressure on prices, to the point where we should be expecting, especially in the condo market, over the next 12 to 18 months, prices should, at those numbers, free fall. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, but they haven't, and the reason is, people can still afford to hold them, right? For now. Condo market as of May 2025, year over year, is down about 8%.
What do you think happens to the freehold market as a kind of like domino effect from the assignment market into the condo market into the freehold?
Well, I mean, I'm seeing some examples of it, offhand when people come to me and say, hey, listen, I closed this unit. I got 2 more units coming on the market. What's going on? I got to refinance my house now. I've talked to a few people that are most likely, well, if they were gonna put their house on the market back in February to save the pre-con they bought, then tariffs happened. The prices they were hoping they were gonna get suddenly, plummeted. Now they're still holding on. They're like, oh, maybe September. I'm like, September is gonna be worse from what I see because we didn't get the rate cut in June. Everyone's waiting for September to put inventory back on the market. We had that happen last year as well. And it's not going to fix your problems. If you're selling, you might as well put it on the market right now and let it wait out because there's no indication that September is going to be any better. So a lot of people are using a primary resident as a way to close the pre-con.
Right, because Canadians always use their home as a piggy bank.
Yeah. So what will happen is a lot of these people are going to sell in order to either say,
Where are they going to go?
I mean, in 2 of the examples I saw, they were like, listen, you know what? I'm going to move into one of the condos because one of the condos was big enough for them to move in. And I'm like, I just don't see why you would let go of a primary resident that you've sit on for this long. You're selling at the worst time of the market.
Right, because they gorged on debt.
Yeah. But let's say sell that. That's a investment. Get the negative equity on it or whatever it is. Second thing that a lot of people don't pay attention to, which again, I'm not an accountant, so this is not an accounting advice, but that is something for people to consider. When you're selling an assignment, it will be considered as an income loss. So if you lost $200,000 on it, that's if you didn't make $200,000 income. So you're paying less taxes, and that you can carry forward and have immediate saving. The common mistake that I see people made is like, okay, I'm going to close it. I'm going to rent it down. I'm going to sell it. Well, that's going to be a capital loss. Unless you get a capital gain to offset against it. Good luck with, getting any incentives out of that. So you're better off selling on an assignment than renting it out and then selling it later.
Wow.
I've had people that literally, when they went to their accountant and they double checked with their accountant, gladly walked away from their 20% and paid on top because they're like, listen, you know what? I'm not paying taxes this year.
Now, one thing that you mentioned is you said, we did get the rate cuts that we were looking for in June. However, I've been following that so carefully. And based on what's happening right now with the increased spending by Harney, the Bank of Canada can't really cut rates any further as long as the Fed is staying super hawkish the way that they are right now. We're already at a big gap between our interest rates and the Fed. And if we do any more, the Canadian dollar is going to fucking crump.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of stuck in this position, not to mention that nobody wants a variable rate right now. So even if they did drop it, it wouldn't matter because Canadians have been slapped by variable rates. They're scared shitless of them, and rightfully so. And so then you go to the fixed market, and what do you see? You see the 10-year bond yield shooting through the roof, which is forcing fixed rates up. And that's not going anywhere anytime soon because the Canadian government can't just spend recklessly like this without being able to issue bonds to investors that have an appetite for those bonds. And right now they don't because there's not a lot of confidence in the Canadian economy. And this extra spending is only pushing us further into a fiscal dominant situation. And so we are stuck. We are stuck where we are right now, and it will take years for this to really play out.
Yeah.
That's what I'm seeing.
And I think you're right. I think the mess that has happened in Canada, it's not going to get fixed in a year or two. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a while till we see any certainty, I would say, or any confidence in the market that people say, okay, you know what? I'm going to pull the trigger. I mean, we've had for the last 2.5 years, well below 10 to 20 year market average of sales. So all the transaction has been below the 10-year figure or 20-year figure. where's all these people that came to Canada? Why are they not buying? What? Like, we got crazy number of population that's just living in Toronto alone, but the sales numbers, transaction volume has been well below the historic level.
Yeah, we're gonna do like what, less than 60,000 this year, maybe?
Well, I mean, year to date, we're 18.5% exactly below last year. And last year was a crazy low year to begin with. I mean, I recall every news outlet, every bank saying this year is going to be a good year. And look what happened right now. All those predictions are out the window. We're probably looking at one of the worst years we've had since 1996. I mean, the last 3 months, March, April, and May, have been below 2000 level. The last April and May be below 1996 level transaction volume. So, and in every pocket you see this happen. Like, the transaction volume is super low. Like, we only had 973 condos sold last month. Like, I can't remember last time we had a below 1,000 units sold in Toronto.
That's super tense. And I'm seeing it on my end too. I'm really telling people to, be super, if you're buying, to stay real patient. If you see a house that you like, it's gotta be perfect. It's gotta check every single box for you to go for it. If it's it, and I'm not talking about investors, though those people are in touch. In terms of the amount of inventory that's flooding the market right now, because I am seeing it flood. Even in the 905 where I primarily work, which has been, by the way, for the most part, insulated compared to the 416. But even in the 905, inventory is flooding, right? Are there like listings that you won't take right now because you're just like, as a business, this doesn't make sense?
So yeah, we've like this year we walked away from a lot of listings, especially the higher end ones, and they're not realistic with the prices. So right now I'm on fence for one of them that's over 5 million, and unless they get their price point in check, there's no point to have a listing.
Actually, you know what? It's so funny because I'm asking this and I'm like, I saw your name in the newspaper, in the Globe and Mail the other day, because you had a super high-end condo
Yeah.
that you had listed as like a 2-story penthouse unit. And I was like, oh, there's Nima.
So that one is actually a great price one. The seller has been super patient, and funny enough, since beginning of the year, we've had over 100 showings. And problem is, no one's pulling the trigger, and the ones that did, they came super low, right? So again, if she wasn't realistic with her expectation, I wouldn't take that listing. Same thing in the assignment market right now. In the assignment market, we get calls from people that are, hey, listen, I want to sell this. I want to I'm good to walk away from the deposit. I'm like, it's not going to sell. It won't sell unless you have another 90 grand, 100 grand. There's no point for me to assign this.
Right. So you're looking at it from a business perspective, saying, look, I'm a commission sales agent. If I don't see, if I'm going to put resources, money, marketing dollars, even just administrative resources into doing this business, and it's not going to yield a return, like, I just can't take the business on.
Well, I mean, on that assignment, I had a full-time girl that's posting to these groups, right? I'm not posting it myself, but I used to do it. It takes a long time. So there's someone I'm paying hourly to do these things. Inquiries come in. Someone's got to send an email, let me make PDF brochures, packages, wine sheeters, everything else. It costs money to do it. Some of them even run paid advertising. Last month, I had an idea because I get so many calls, I'll be like, listen, because some of them go with some other agents that I see they won't do anything. I went up and called and was like, oh my God, this guy hasn't done anything that you said he would do. But I made a contract, I got 4 months contract with this guy. My unit is going to go into occupancy. I'm going to be I'm just going to be destroyed. And then I was thinking, I'm like, you know what, maybe just for the sake of helping a few people, I just say, listen, pro bono, like, you want it sold for this price? Okay, you know what? I'll include it in my general advertising. I won't even charge you, just to help you, just so you see the results. Because I know if you go with another agent, you're not even going to get that. You're going to be stuck and you're not going to sell. And
That's what I'm noticing too, is that there were so many people who got into real estate just as like a fallback career, or they got into it as like a kind of second job. They would side hustle kind of thing. And, there's a lot of kind of, oh, my Uncle Bob will do it and he'll do it for a fraction of the price of this and this and that. People are just not willing to do that. They're not willing to take the chance on Uncle Bob anymore because things are so tenuous right now. Things are so frail and fragile in the market right now, and you can lose so much money. They want a real professional. Now, having said all of this, you're in an interesting position because you saw the pre-con side of things and you were involved in it and you know it inside out, but you also do a ton of resale.
Yeah.
Like you really do. And so you've got kind of the best of both worlds. I had in here sitting right there like a month ago, Mark Morris, and he was telling me that he has seen builders suing the agents that had sold the condo units for them for clawbacks on tiered commissions that they had paid out on signing and inking of the deal. Have you seen that?
On the deals that didn't close.
Yes.
Yeah, that's happening.
Holy shit.
It's happening. Hopefully, it's clawbacks on the majority of these units. So if the person that bought it doesn't close, you got to pay back the commission. Yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And I was just talking to someone else yesterday. We were trying to get a deal together. This pre-con agent, very big pre-con agent, actually from your office. And we were just talking about it, about one of the projects. And he's like, yeah, they're clawing back a few of the deals because, the guy just didn't close on it. And that's an unfortunate thing. I know a few other agents that came to me and the agents that don't do a lot of pre-cons get hurt because they do one or two one-offs. They had no clue what they're doing, and that they counted on that commission. And if they don't have the money to pay it back, they're screwed. The guy that did 10 deals in the projects, 2 of them don't close, they deduct it from the balance. He's good. He doesn't have to physically pay. In fact, he just gets bucks. What's the guy that only did one-off deal? He's already spent the money. Now he's got to come back with $20,000, $30,000, $40,000.
So the agents that do pre-con, they sold out like an entire floor or something like that. There's still a tiered commission on closing for a bunch of units. The builder still has to pay the money, so the agent's just saying, well, just deduct.
The builder just deducts it.
Deduct the clawback.
Yeah, they deduct and it's on the balance. If there's any balance or if there's a shortfall, whatever it is, like most cases when I'm talking to them, they're just like, we're just getting less commission paid out because they did, 5, 6, 7 deals, 1 or 2 didn't close.
Wow, that's so crazy. I'm very much concerned for this market. I really appreciate your insight on that because you're now bringing things to light that I mean, I deal primarily with resale, and I deal primarily with homeowners, like primary residence stuff in the 905 mostly. And what I'm seeing, kind of the ripple effect and the tsunami of listings coming to market, I am getting a little bit concerned. Like it's getting to the point where even things like, pressure is coming not only on us, on mortgage brokers, the pressure that they're feeling to make things happen, and then the pressure on like even things like stagers. Because now it's stagers are running out of furniture, right? Yeah. They're legitimately running out of furniture, and agents are saying, I can't afford to do the renewals anymore. I just had this conversation with a client the other day as like, which we've done the 3 renewals. Yeah. We've run out of listing budget. I literally can't, or else I'm not, I will literally not get any money.
That's actually true fact because I don't know if you know, like I have my own staging company, and this is what we're seeing. Everyone's renewing. Like, there's nothing there right now. Like I want to stage one of my units. I was scrambling. There was nothing there. And everyone's renewing, and
right, all the furniture is sitting in listed homes that are not selling. So you can't even get furniture.
Yeah, and no, I hear it from a lot of the agents. Like I get calls. Okay, you know what? My stager's not doing it. Like, maybe you have anything that we can use. It's fine. Like, it's funny enough. Like, we never ran into this situation, and luckily, the agents we work with have the financial capability to hold it at least in the unit. Because a lot of people just put it in the unit and they take it out. I sold a condo. We had the most inferior of the 3. There were identical units. We had the most inferior one. And because low floor, the worst view out of all of them. I went and visited the other ones. One of them, had it staged, removed the staging, so the picture were on the stage. The other one was half a stage. I think the owner lived in, so they didn't really do the whole thing. I told my clients, I'm like, good luck to us selling, because the other one is a higher floor like ours. The other one is CN Tower view. So I got a call one night. The guy's like, okay, well, now, can we do the deal at this price point? I thought he was joking. I felt like he's going to use my offer, go to the other units, and then bring the price down. I'm like, I got to ask, how come you're not going to the other units? He's like, well, I don't know. Don't you want to sell yours? I'm like, no, but there's another one above me. We're all priced the same. What's going on? Listen, single girl buying a unit, loves the staging. What do you want me to tell you? Can you throw in the sofa? I was like laughing. I called my client. I'm like, we need to make a deal with this guy, because if we don't, he goes to any of the other guys. They drop the price. You are minimum 50 to 80,000 below their price point. So we sold it. The one that's CN Tower View, we sold it about 2 months ago, still on the market. They had dropped their price below our sale price by $60,000. I screenshot it, sent it to my client. I said, oh my God, thank you. I'm like, well, thanks for listening to me, because, you could have been like, no, I'm not selling below this price point.
Right.
And he would have been screwed. Right now, both of those units are still on the market. So staging makes a huge difference, especially in this market. But yes, good luck finding a stager that's got inventory right now.
Right.
It's crazy.
And so the prices are going up on staging like crazy because there's no supply, and you have a bunch of sellers who are essentially scrambling for the exits.
Yeah, like that condo, that two-story condo in Vaughan that we have, it's staged, fully staged. And
it looks beautiful.
Yeah,
I saw the pictures. It looks great.
Yeah, we've had so many agents go through do videos. It's one of, like, even in downtown Toronto, I haven't seen a unit like that. There's just, the demand for that type of product in that location.
I'll tell you right now, I have listings that I can't drop the price fast enough. Like I actually can't even keep up. And every time I call back, I have a power sale listed right now in Brampton. I've worked with these lenders for many, many years. Great relationship with them. I'd never had to tell them stuff like this. Yeah, I'm not just dropping your price, but I'm telling them things like, guys, the only way I could put it is this market is tumbling fast. And the way that I would put this is you've got gangrene on your forearm.
Yeah.
And so with this next price drop, I got to take the elbow. Yeah. And if I don't take the elbow, next month we're going to be talking about the shoulder.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta anticipate where the market is. And I always tell my clients, if you're going to be dropping down based on the price you want and not based on the price I'm telling you to drop to, you're going to be chasing the market. Market is coming down, we got to catch it. So you decide what you want to do. You want to be the next sell, or you want to be, dropping down till, we're below the price that I'm telling you. And, some people listen, some people don't. Can't put a gun to people's head to say, listen, this is the price you got to go in. And it's unfortunate sometimes, because I always tell my clients, I'm like, listen, there's a reason you came to me and you said, hey, listen, sell my property. I have to give it to you honest and backed with data.
It's funny that Tom Story was here a couple weeks ago, and he's sitting there and he was like, it's so funny that the conversation with people has changed and flipped to 180 to the point where we used to say, you should hire me because I'm going to sell your property for more, and now he's like, you should hire me because I'm going to sell it for less.
Yeah. And
what he means by that is I'm going to get it actually sold.
Yeah.
And if you want to play games, you're going to get killed out there. So, this messaging, I think, is super important, is that, we want to be able to tell people the truth, right? Not just buy real estate, you're going to do great. It's like, man, we're not going to tell you what we want to we know you want to hear just because we know you want to hear it. We're going to tell you the hard truth. And the hard truth is, take a haircut and get out.
Yeah. Yeah. If you are, depending on the situation, I always say, look at your situation, look at your opportunity cost, because if you're selling using that money for something else, then, you probably thought about it. You know where the money is better spent. If you're just selling because you just want to sell, then now is not the time. So I'm not here to overprice the listing, sit on it and, not sell, because it costs money. But we stage properties depending on, the commission we're getting. Sometimes the seller is paying for it. Sometimes we got to pay for it. And regardless of it, we do paid advertising. So every day that this is sitting on the market is costing me money. So if I'm advertising something that's overpriced, what are we doing here? There's no point. Those days that a unicorn would come through the door and, pay something crazy that the property didn't worth is over when you got 40 other choices within 500 meters.
So comparables are irrelevant. Just like when the market was going up, no one cared about what the last one sold for because now the next sale is going to be a new benchmark. It's the same thing in reverse.
Yeah. So that's the issue most areas are running into. Condo market worse because going back to the assignment market, downtown Toronto was still like hovering around $1,000 a square foot. If you would go a little bit to the east near DVP, you'd be looking at around 900. Now the Southern Canada House came to occupancy. People are listing left, right, and center. And I'm looking at list prices on assignments at $900 a square foot. So, and some Norwich parking 900. So you get something like that. And if you're listing right now downtown Toronto, all of a sudden you got to be priced at $850 or below if you got an assignment. Because if a building like that is selling for $900 a square foot, you're going to have problems selling anything else.
So I guess this is a kind of a cool place to really start to hit the home stretch on the podcast. I had Richard Robbins here a couple weeks ago, and I posted the video, and it got very, very few views. And I was talking to a couple people, and someone mentioned something to me that was really interesting. He said, well, it's probably a good thing that you got not so many views on that because in the real estate industry, that's a big name, right? That's a big interview to get. Sure. Cool. He's like, but if you're not getting a lot of views on it and you're getting a lot of views when Mark Morris comes in, when Tom Sawyer comes in, whatever it is, when they're actually talking about real stuff, he's like, well, that kind of signifies that your viewership is consumers, and it's not agents. Yeah. And so now, given all of that, and we're hit the home stretch here, what would be your message to consumers who are here, who are listening? Because this is a real estate podcast, man. That nobody here is here because they're looking to rent forever or are interested in real estate. What would your message be then?
If you're trying to get into the market at any given point, you need to first make sure you're here for a long period of time, right? So it doesn't matter if you're buying a detached or a condo. This is a long game. So if you can afford it, if you can afford the monthly payments, by all means, get into the market. But be sure that you're not getting in the market for the wrong reasons and you're not thinking of flipping within a year or two. Listen, market goes up, by all means, do it in 6 months. But make sure you're there minimum 5 years. And this is what I've been telling all my clients, pre-cons, assignments, whatever it is. We're not in the game of day trading real estate. And if you have a real need, you're buying real estate. We're not buying real estate just because, tomorrow it's going to be doubling up. So just buy for the right reasons.
Neiman, thanks for putting in, man. Appreciate it.
And for having me. Appreciate it.